Hi, I'm John Decker, PGA instructor and author of the book, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game. Today I want to work with you on the full swing, and I want to talk about ball position. One of the things that a lot of times you'll hear on television when the commentators are talking about shots the players are hitting is moving the ball back in the stance. And there are times when I will move the ball back in my stance in certain situations. Now, I'm on a level lie right here on the driving range. So the only time I would really ever move the ball back in my stance is if I want to purposely lower my ball flight. If I wanted to play a draw versus a fade, I'll move it back in my stance. If I'm hitting out of a fairway bunker, I'll move it back in my stance. Or if I get in a divot or a real sandy lie out on the golf course, I'll move it back in my stance. Very, very rarely though, I don't want to make a steady diet of that because you give up some things, one of which is power when you move the ball back in your stance. Now, let's talk about the ball position itself. I've got this blue stick here that's lined up, and basically when I'm setting up to the ball, if I were going to hit this first ball and the stick is lined up, I'd put my feet together and I'd open my left foot and I'd widen my right foot. This is my ball position right here if I were hitting the first ball. Now here's what I want to talk about. If I decide that I want to move the ball back in my stance, I make two adjustments. Number one is I physically move the ball back one ball. So notice the ball went from here to here. So I'm only moving it back one ball. I'm not moving it back way back here. And that's what I see a lot on the golf course is students will play the ball way back here in their stance, especially with their short irons. So I just want to move the ball back one ball. The second adjustment I make is anytime I move the ball back in my stance is I open up my stance. Notice how my heel moves, and now I'm touching the blue stick. So I've actually moved it back a little bit and opened up my stance. And then from there, I'm not going to make a full backswing and a full follow through. Remember, if I'm moving the ball back in my stance, I'm going to lower my ball flight. I'm not going to try to make a full swing. So I might be hitting into a really stiff breeze, or I might be in the trees and trying to come under some limbs. This is when I move the ball back in my stance. Or I'm on the side of a hill, maybe the ball's above my feet and I'm coming out of the rough. Anytime I'm coming out of heavy rough in the full swing, I will move it back in my stance a little bit because I don't want to catch the rough first. I want to try my best to catch the ball first. But I make these slight adjustments so the ball goes from my normal ball position here, where it is, I'm just going to move it back one step like that. Now, keep in mind on the golf course, I can't physically move it. So the way I do it when I'm setting up is I put my feet together, I line the ball in the middle of my feet, I open, I widen, I move forward a little bit, and then I open, just like that. So when I move my weight forward like this, that moves the ball back, and then I open up my stance. And the reason I open up my stance is it makes it easier for me to turn through the shot. You're going to notice that when you move the ball back in your stance, you are going to tend to make a little bit deeper divot than normal. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my shot. I hit that ball real solid. That divot's a little bit deeper than normal, but I would be extremely happy with that shot. And what I liked about that shot is I brought the trajectory down. So that was a 9-iron, and I was able to bring the trajectory down. Now let's talk real briefly about what clubs you're going to do this with. You're not ever going to move the driver back in your stance, or a fairway wood back in your stance, or even a hybrid or a long club. The only time I start moving the ball back in my stance, typically maybe around the 7-iron, 7, 8, 9 pitching wedge, all my wedges, and it's only in those situations. So practice this. You need to practice this before you go on the golf course. Hit some normal shots and move the ball back. And remember, you're only moving it one ball. You're not moving it 8 inches or anything like that. Move it back one ball. Work on this. Work on your follow through. And if you can learn to do this, you're going to learn to control the trajectory of your shots. You're going to lower your scores.